It's strange how some nights feel different from the very beginning, heavier, quieter, as if the air itself is warning you that something's about to change. That night was one of those nights. I remember the sound of the rain tapping against the window, the faint smell of my mom's perfume still lingering in the living room, and the hum of the refrigerator filling the silence. I never thought that a few hours later, everything I knew about my family, my mother, my stepfather, even myself, would be shattered. My name's Leah, and this is a true story. The night my stepfather walked in, I never expected what happened next. Growing up, I always thought my mom was the strongest woman alive. She worked 2 jobs, smiled through exhaustion, and somehow made sure I never felt like I was missing anything. When she met David, my stepfather, it felt like we'd finally found peace. He was calm, dependable, and made my mom laugh in a way I hadn't seen in years. For the first time, our little apartment felt like a home. But peace can be an illusion. Sometimes the people who seem the most perfect are the ones hiding the deepest cracks. That night, David was supposed to be out of town for work. My mom said he had a late business dinner, and she seemed different. Nervous. She kept checking her phone, glancing toward the window like she was waiting for someone. I didn't think much of it at first. Adults have their moods, but something about her smile didn't feel right. It wasn't warm. It was forced. I went to my room, put on my headphones, and tried to ignore the weird energy in the air. But then, around midnight, I heard the front door creak open. Slow, careful, like someone trying not to be heard. My heart jumped. David wasn't supposed to be home. I peeked through the crack in my door and saw a figure standing in the dark hallway. It was him, my stepfather, wet from the rain, his face half hidden in shadow. But what caught me wasn't just the surprise of him being home early, it was the look on his face. Cold, hurt, and something else I couldn't name at the time, something that felt like betrayal. Behind him, my mom's voice broke the silence, trembling, defensive. And in that moment, I realized I was about to witness something no daughter ever should. The night my stepfather walked in was the night our family's truth walked out. What happened next changed everything. The trust, the love, the image of who I thought my parents were. And the worst part? The real story didn't even start until after that night. David didn't say a word at first. He just stood there, dripping from the rain, staring at my mom like he was trying to piece together a puzzle that didn't make sense. The silence stretched so long that it felt like the whole house was holding its breath. My mom froze in the middle of the living room, clutching her phone like it was something precious or dangerous. I could hear my own heartbeat loud in my ears, and I remember thinking something's wrong, really wrong. When David finally spoke, his voice was low, calm. I stayed behind my door, barely breathing, afraid that if I moved, they'd realize I was there. From the way David's voice broke on certain words, and the way my mom tried to sound calm but couldn't, it was clear this wasn't about something small. There was history behind it, secrets, maybe. The kind of secrets that don't stay hidden forever. He walked past her, slowly, his footsteps heavy against the floor. I thought I could trust you, he said quietly, almost to himself. After everything we built, after everything I gave up. My mom whispered something back, but I couldn't catch it. I saw her hand reach out toward him, but he stepped away. That's when I noticed something new in his expression, not just anger or pain, but confusion, like he didn't know what to believe anymore. The clock on the wall ticked louder than ever. Outside, the rain started again, harder this time, like it was echoing what was happening inside. I wanted to run, to stop listening, but something kept me there. Maybe it was fear, or maybe it was the feeling that this night was going to change everything. David turned toward the hallway for a moment, and for a second, I thought his eyes met mine. I pulled the door shut, my heart pounding. I didn't know if he saw me, but I felt it, that strange, cold awareness when the truth is about to come out. And in that moment, I realized my family had been living on borrowed peace. Whatever was about to happen next, it wasn't going to be just an argument. It was going to be the beginning of the end. After that night, nothing felt the same. The next morning, the house was quiet, too quiet. My mom moved around the kitchen pretending everything was normal, but her eyes were swollen, and she couldn't look me in the face. David had already left for work, or at least that's what she said, though I didn't believe her. There was a tension in the air, something unspoken that hung between us like fog. I wanted to ask what happened, but the words stayed stuck in my throat. At school, I couldn't focus. Every sound reminded me of that night. The rain, the silence, the way David's voice cracked. When I got home, his car was in the driveway. I hesitated before walking in. From the living room, I could hear them talking, their voices low but sharp, like two people standing on the edge of something they couldn't come back from. Later that evening, my mom came into my room. She smiled, but it wasn't real. "Everything's fine, Leah," she said softly. "Just grown-up stuff." But I could hear her voice shake. Grown-up stuff didn't make people look that broken. Over the next few days, David grew distant. He'd leave early, come home late, and when he did, he barely spoke. Sometimes I'd catch him staring at my mom when she wasn't looking, that cold, empty kind of stare that said more than words ever could. I started noticing small things too. His phone always locked, whispered calls in the hallway, messages he deleted quickly. It was like both of them were hiding something from each other, and from me. And deep down, I knew the truth wasn't just about that one night. Something much bigger was unfolding, something that was going to tear everything apart. One evening, a week after that stormy night, I came home to find the lights in the house dimmed and the air heavy with silence again. My mom's car was outside, and David's briefcase sat by the door. I called out, but no one answered. The quiet felt thick, almost like the house was holding its breath again. The same feeling as before, only worse. My stomach twisted as I took a few slow steps forward. From the hallway, I heard voices, low, urgent, and breaking between words. I recognized my mom's tone, soft but trembling, and David's, deeper, colder, like he'd already made up his mind about something. I moved closer, my heart pounding so loud it drowned out the rest of the world. "I just wish you'd told me the truth," he said, his voice tight. "You could have trusted me." "I didn't want to lose everything," she whispered back. "You don't understand." There was a pause, long enough for me to feel the fear rising in my throat. I pressed my back to the wall, listening, trying to make sense of the words. Truth about what? What was she hiding? And what had he found out? Then I heard a sound that made my heart freeze, the sharp crack of something hitting the floor. My mom gasped, and David's voice broke through again, but it wasn't anger anymore. It was something else. Desperation. I couldn't stay hidden any longer. I stepped out, my voice trembling as I called their names. Both of them turned at once, shock flashing across their faces. In that moment, everything collided. The lies, the fear, the silence. The truth was hanging there, right between us, just one word away from breaking everything apart. The moment they saw me standing there, the air in the room changed. My mom's face went pale, and David's expression hardened like a door slamming shut. For a few seconds, no one said anything. The only sound was the faint hum of the ceiling fan and the rain starting again outside, soft but steady. I could feel my hands shaking, but I didn't back away. I wanted to know what they were hiding, what truth had turned our home into a stranger's house. "Leah, go back to your room," my mom said quickly, her voice cracking at the edges. But I couldn't. "What's going on?" I asked. "Why are you both acting like this?" My voice was small, but it cut through the silence. David took a step forward, his eyes on my mom. "You tell her," he said, almost like a challenge. She looked at him, then at me, and I could see the tears welling up. "Leah, there are things I should have told you before," she began. Her hands trembled as she spoke. "I was trying to protect you." Before she could continue, David pulled a folded piece of paper from his pocket and placed it on the table. "Protect her from what?" "From the truth," he said, his voice shaking now. I looked at the paper, an envelope, worn at the edges. My name was written on it. My mom gasped softly, and I realized she hadn't expected him to find it. "What's that?" I asked, but neither of them answered. My mom reached. I didn't know what was written on that paper, but from the way they looked at each other, Hurt, regret, fear. I knew it was something that would change everything. Something about me. And in that instant, I realized the secret wasn't just between them. I was part of it. My mom stood frozen, clutching the letter like it was something alive, something that could destroy everything if she let it go. David's jaw was tight, his eyes filled with anger and something else, heartbreak. The room felt smaller with every second. I couldn't take the silence anymore. "Just tell me the truth," I said quietly. "Please." My mom's lips trembled. She looked at me, then at David, and finally whispered, "Leah, David isn't just your stepfather." The words hit me like a punch. For a second, I couldn't breathe. "What do you mean?" I asked, my voice barely holding steady. She sank into the couch, her hands shaking. "Before I met David officially, before I told you, he was just a friend. We had a history. I didn't tell you because I was scared. You were still so young, and I didn't want to confuse you." David turned away, his voice breaking. "You didn't tell her the truth about who her real father is." The room spun. My heart raced as I looked between them, trying to process the words. "You're saying," I started, my voice catching. "You're saying he's my father?" My mom nodded slowly, tears streaming down her face. David looked at me, his expression softening. "I wanted to tell you for years," he said quietly. "But your mother didn't want the past to ruin what we had." The truth hung heavy in the air. "Everything." My mom's eyes widened in shock. "You found it," she whispered. David nodded. "He wrote it before he disappeared. He wanted her to know he was still alive." The words echoed through the room, heavy and unreal. My mom covered her mouth, and I felt the floor shift beneath me. The man I thought was gone wasn't gone at all. And just like that, the story I thought was ending had only just begun. For a long moment, no one spoke. The rain outside had stopped, leaving only the faint drip from the gutters. My mom sat still, staring at the letter in her hands, and David looked like he'd aged 10 years in just a few minutes. I couldn't move. I didn't even know what to feel. Anger, relief, confusion, it all mixed together until it just felt like emptiness. Finally, my mom took a shaky breath and handed me the letter. "You deserve to read it," she said softly. "No more secrets." Her voice cracked, but she didn't look away this time. I unfolded the paper slowly, the edges worn and faded. The handwriting was rough but familiar, a name I hadn't heard in years. My real father. The letter was short, just a few lines, but every word felt like it carried a lifetime. He wrote that he had to leave to protect us, that things weren't safe back then, and that he hoped someday I would understand. When I finished reading, tears blurred the ink. I didn't know whether to hate him for leaving or thank him for still caring. David reached out and placed a hand on my shoulder. "You're still my daughter," he said quietly. "That hasn't changed, and it never will." And in that moment, I knew he meant it. Whatever mistakes had been made, whatever truths had been buried, love had still found a way to stay. My mom wiped her tears and nodded. "We can't change the past," she said, "but we can stop letting it control us." It wasn't forgiveness yet, but it was a start. In the weeks that followed, we began to rebuild. The silence in the house didn't feel heavy anymore. It felt like space to breathe, to talk, to finally be honest. I kept the letter in my drawer, not as a reminder of pain, but as proof that the truth, no matter how hard, can set you free. That night changed everything, but it also taught me something powerful, that families aren't just built on blood or perfect stories. They're built on forgiveness, understanding, and the courage to face the truth. And maybe, just maybe, that's what love really is, not the absence of secrets, but the strength to face them together.